Welcome to Professional Conversations. This is our fourth professional conversation, and I'm really excited for this one. We have a speaker, an international speaker, Tim Stelzer from right now, from outside Tokyo in Japan. We'll get into exactly where he is in a minute. As you all know, Professional Conversations is a development from the EE department's MSEE. It's path-breaking online degree program hosted by Coursera. One of the things about the MSEE is it's largely student-driven and an autonomous degree. Students can move through at their own time and pace their own education. So we decided to develop Professional Conversations as a kind of foil to that, where students could have a very personal encounter with a professional in electrical engineering. So this is our fourth, we've run 3 of them this semester, and we're gonna go on a hiatus after this one, collect ourselves, and relaunch in the spring. So today, we have Tim Stelzer. Tim is an international executive. He has worked in Japan, in China, in Malaysia. He is currently in Japan as Director of Applications Engineering for National Instruments. He works on autonomous driving vehicles, on advanced drive systems, on 5G, and on clean, smart electric grids. He is also a CU Boulder alum, an undergrad, and a Boulder native, one of the few people who can have that native bumper sticker that we all know in Colorado is coveted. That is a coveted, for those of you who are visiting us from outside of Colorado now, that is a coveted bumper sticker, the native sticker, because many of us got here as soon as we heard about it, and we beelined into Boulder, but only few people are actually true Boulderites. So Tim graduated CU Boulder, and he's now also a scholar in residence at CU Boulder, which is quite an honor. So I am just delighted to have Tim join us. We usually run for about half an hour of the speaker talking through some ideas and autobiography, and then we usually open it up to questions and answers. I imagine we'll go to a little after 4 Boulder time, but if conversation stretches on, I'm certainly fascinated. So with no further ado, I turn it over to our guest.
Thank you, William. What a wonderful introduction. And it's my absolute pleasure to be talking with you all today. It's humbling, actually. I've seen the list of luminaries really that have had an opportunity to engage in these professional conversations with you all. And I only hope that I can live up to the expectations and the precedent set by some of those other folks. And as mentioned, I am talking to you all from Japan today. I'm based in Tokyo, but today I'm actually on vacation in the mountains outside of Tokyo in Nagano, where the Olympics were held a number of years ago. So that would explain the flannel shirt. I'm a little more casual than typical. And as we're all getting used to the new normal and the work from home situation, I've got a house full of 5 kids just in the next room over. So when you hear the kids screaming and playing Legos, that would be why. So I apologize in advance, but I'm sure we're all getting quite adept at these new ways of working. So let me first just share a little bit about myself. Picture always tells 1,000 words, and I love this picture. William was asking where did I go to school, because I am a Boulder native. So this is actually taken at Niwot High School, where I went to high school, interestingly enough. And I love it because, obviously this is my family. I'm a father and a husband, first and foremost. I've got 3 wonderful kids. And as you can see, we're an adventurous family. And I, ask a lot of my kids, and they willingly tromp through our adventures around the world and through the mountains with us. And, at heart, I'm an engineer. I really love creative problem solving. And I fundamentally believe that, engineering is the key and the tool to solving the world's greatest challenges. There's a lot of professions that you can go into, and you can be a politician, you can be a banker on Wall Street, but I've always just personally really gotten a lot of satisfaction from solving tough problems with technology and making the world a better place. And that's what has kept me in this industry now for over 20 years. And as you heard in the intro, I have had the opportunity to travel all over the world, both professionally and personally, and that's been a big part of kind of the angle for me in engineering, and I do want to share that with you. So just briefly on my career path, and I put path in quotations there because in all honesty, as I was preparing for this presentation, I was looking for PowerPoint templates, as we all tend to do, and one that had a nice timeline and a linear approach, and you could show all of the roles that you've had in your career and how they've progressed and led from one to the other. And the reality is that's just not how my career has gone. And so maybe that's the first kind of message that I hope to deliver to you all, is that I've been personally extremely unsuccessful at predicting what the next opportunity is going to be for me. And I think the better way to represent it rather than a timeline for me is geographically and looking at this world map. So let me just walk you through the world map and share a little bit about my personal career journey. So I did graduate from CU Boulder in '99 with a degree in electrical and computer engineering. Uh, I know you all are an embedded systems group, a lot of you. I actually received what turned out to be the first embedded systems certificate from the ECE department as we were just starting up that program back in '99. So that was a great honor and a privilege for me. And I've always been fascinated about that intersection between software and hardware and building up in embedded systems. That's kind of been my expertise. And so after I graduated from CU Boulder, I took a job with National Instruments, now rebranded NI, in Austin, Texas. So I took a big leap of faith as a Colorado native and decided to move to Texas, which turned out to be a great decision. And I spent about 5 years there, really as a hands-on design engineer, doing embedded software and embedded hardware design for all kinds of products, ranging from in-vehicle networking protocols for automotive to data acquisition products, and had a great time as an engineer. Really mastered a lot of the fundamentals and put my degree that I got from CU to good use, and enjoyed that experience a lot. And the process of building up a product and releasing a product was very rewarding. And at that point, I got a unique opportunity to go and take a role as a technical lead for our team that we were just building up in Shanghai, China. And so that was the first big move I made, and big leap. And that was fascinating to be in China at that time. It was very much coming up on the world stage. It was exciting. It was everything that you might think: challenging, amazing, getting thrown into a new culture, learning a new language, and really taking an opportunity to lead a team and move from sort of an individual contributor role to a role that had more of an influence outside of just the work that I was personally doing myself. And I found that really rewarding, and found that I actually loved developing people and growing the people around me more so than just releasing products. So I know that's a conversation that maybe you've had with some of the previous speakers about, kind of this, individual contributor engineer path, or more of the management path. And for me personally, that's what made the decision. Is I just found that I was more rewarded by developing the people and seeing the results that I could get from leading a team. And so that led to my next opportunity, which is down in the bottom right, which was an amazing and I like to say once in a career opportunity, really, to start up a brand new R&D site from scratch in Penang, Malaysia. And when I say from scratch, I literally mean from scratch. We went there and visited and found a plot of land to build our site on. There was a jungle there when we went. We had to clear out the snakes. I still remember all the pythons that we had to pull out of the jungle to clear away and clear the jungle away to build a site. And you get to do a lot of interesting things in that kind of startup culture. You get to not only be an engineer or an engineering manager, but you end up being the IT person as well, and you end up being the facilities person, and all these things that you're working for a large billion-dollar company, but you really get the entrepreneurial opportunity of a startup with all the security and the financial backing of a stable company. And so I spent 5 years growing a team. I'm really proud of what we accomplished there. Hiring all the people and growing from, like I said, nothing to now what is our second biggest site as a company, and over 250 engineers in Malaysia, as well as a big manufacturing facility as well. So really, a fortunate and once in a career kind of opportunity. After that opportunity in Malaysia, I repatriated back to the US and was based in Boulder again for 3 years. And I had the opportunity to lead our academic program at NI. So we're very involved in STEM education and building and partnering with organizations like FIRST Robotics. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with FIRST and FRC, but my team got to design things like the RoboRio robotics controller that's now used in all of the FIRST robotics competitions, and develop products that really were designed to improve engineering education. And so that was very rewarding for me personally, because that's a passion area, and I felt like it had a greater purpose for the work that I was doing. So as you can see in my career, there's kind of every 3 to 5 years I've had something new and gotten the itch, and that's held true again, where just recently, after 3 years being back in the US, I have an opportunity to come here to Japan and run our application engineering group for all of Asia. And this is where we work with our customers on some of those applications that were mentioned. So autonomous driving, 5G communication for the next generation mobile phone devices, smart grid. So get to touch a lot of really cool opportunities, because this is now in a sales function. So we're the technical arm of our sales organization, and out there working with our sales team to understand our customers' needs and develop applications that fit their specific need. So another pivot. And so, I've been with NI for over 20 years, which in this day and age, to be with the same company that you started with right out of school is pretty rare. But you can see that I think I've had 5 or 6 careers within a career at NI, and just really been fortunate to have kind of these unique opportunities come up every 3 to 5 years. So that's a little bit about my career path. I did want to introduce NI just briefly for those of you who aren't familiar. Hopefully you've got to maybe use some of our products in your labs, but I'm going to play a short video, and hopefully this works. It's about a 1-minute video to just give you a little more overview about NI.
Tim, I don't think we're getting the sound on this. Uh,
Uh,
I'm not getting it on my side, and I think that's a Zoom problem. We did get to see the visual.
okay,
You
okay.
can either try and
Hit,
sort that, or you can just give us a little overview. But we got a sense of
yeah,
the scope of what NI does.
okay, good. Yeah, I apologize. I should have thought through that one.
Now,
Needless to say, it was a very inspirational and music packed video. But I'll share the video. You guys can watch it afterwards. But really, NI is out there to engineer ambitiously and change the world by improving the world of automated test and automated measurement. And I'll get into that in just a minute. Um, but let me pivot now, and this is a career conversation, and I started thinking, what would be my wise career advice, and as I think about it, I think we've all attended these kind of things in the past, and often they can turn into a long list of do's and don'ts by some person, and I tried to distill it down maybe into three key points. And so what I really want to leave you all with is a discussion about passion. So kind of the why, why are you doing what you do? A discussion about your strengths. So what is it that you can do, and what are your capabilities? And then a little discussion about your network. So sort of the who, and in some cases the how. So that'll be the next. I'll just talk a little bit about these three issues and topics, and hopefully share some stories as we go along the way. So first I want to talk about your passion and the why. And I thought I would do it by sharing a failure, my own personal failure as an automated test engineer. So, like I mentioned, when I was graduating from CU Boulder, there was a few things that I was passionate about. I knew I was passionate about traveling the world and living in different countries and learning new languages and new cultures. And I was also passionate about STEM engineering and education. And so with those kind of passions, I was thinking, well, what should I do when I graduate? Maybe should I join the Peace Corps? Should I, join Engineers Without Borders and go, build dams in Rwanda or something like that? And I also kind of knew maybe I wanted to try a startup kind of culture experience. So there was all these things going through my head. What should I do when I graduate? But like many of you can probably relate to, I was also dirt poor as a engineering graduate, and so I met NI at a career fair at CU Boulder down in the Coors Event Center, actually. And here's this company from Texas that's talking to me about automated tests and automated measurement. And raise your hand if you go to school because you want to be a test engineer, right? Nobody goes to school and says they want to be a test engineer. I certainly didn't. So here I am talking to this company that does automated test. And in the end, I end up joining NI, and in the end, I've gotten to realize a lot of my passions that I talked about. You heard how I've had opportunities to work all around the world, how I've gotten to be involved in education and STEM engineering and providing tools for things like FIRST Robotics. I got a startup culture experience by leading that team in Penang, Malaysia. So the point here is that I think it's kind of hollow advice sometimes when people tell you to just follow your passion, because a lot of us don't know what our passion is, first of all, and second of all, sometimes you can't just wait around for this perfect opportunity you think aligns with all your passions. So from my personal experience, really it's about finding the passion in everything that you do and throwing yourself into it fully and just being totally immersed in what you're doing and excelling at what you're doing, and then making your interests known. So for me, I started as a design engineer and just tried to be the best design engineer that I could be while making it known that, hey, I love traveling the world. I did a study abroad, and if there's ever an international opportunity that comes up, you know, please consider me. And sure enough, one did, and then that led to another. So hopefully, that resonates with some of you, that you can't always just blindly follow your passion, but if you throw yourself into what you're doing, your passion ends up finding you in a lot of cases. And so that's really the first kind of message that I want to give to this audience. So the second topic that I want to discuss a little bit is your strengths. And so this is really, like I said, the what. What are you able to do? What are you capable of? And one book that's had a really profound impact on me and my career and my style as an engineer and as a leader is this one on the left, Now Discover Your Strengths. So it's part of a series from Gallup. It's sort of required reading in the engineering management community. I'm not sure if anyone has read it, or if maybe anyone has done the Strengths Finder survey. That's a part of this book. But it's fascinating to me because this book defines a strength as the ability to consistently provide near perfect performance in a specific activity, which is really fascinating when you think about it, like near perfect performance. And so it transcends and is more than just a certain skill that you have, or a certain experience or training that you've acquired. It's really this combination of something that's innate in you, an innate talent that you have, and then combined with your drive and your resilience and your effort to hone that talent and that craft. And so, again, just telling a little story from my personal failures, because I think we can learn a lot from our failures as well as our successes. So for a very short time in my career, I had the opportunity to join the marketing department and be a marketeer, as I say here. We had a new product that was getting ready to launch. I had been working on the engineering team to design it. I was very familiar with it. It was a beautiful design. It was a great product, and we had an attrition in the marketing team. Somebody had left right before our product launch, and they needed somebody to step in and help take this product to market. And so I was tapped to do that. And of course, I was invested in this product, so I had a lot at stake. And what I found in this marketing role is that the strength that you really needed was something from the Strength Finder book called, they like to call it WOO. And it's an acronym for winning over others, right? So can you woo people? Can you win someone over? Can you convince them that this is a great product? Because that's ultimately what you're doing in marketing. And I'll tell you what, those were some of the longest, most energy draining days that I had, like going out and trying to promote this product and win customers over and influence. And I realized at the end of the day, this just was not my strength as a person. And I could get better at it, and I could acquire some skills and take some training, but it was an activity that drained energy from me. It wasn't an activity that gave me energy. And that's kind of how I knew that, okay, this is not my strength. My strength is in creative problem solving, analyzing a complex system and distilling it down to something that's more simple, setting a strategic vision for a team. Those were the kind of activities that, when I found myself doing those day to day, I was energized, and the day would fly by, and I'd work all night if I had to, because it was something that I had a strength at. And when you combine that innate talent then with the right skills and training, it really becomes a strength that you can build on and make a career out of. So that's really, takeaway number 2 is play to your strengths. And within those strengths, do everything you can to master the fundamentals and build on that and become an expert. So find an area that you're strong at, and just dive in and become an expert. And that's going to be a way that, I feel like you have a rewarding and satisfying career. And there's going to be roles that you cast at that just aren't your strength, and recognize those as well, and make a move, so that you don't get stuck in that kind of career. Okay, last point is about your network, and this is sort of the who. Uh, and you hear it sometimes, who you know is at least important, maybe more important than what you know and what you can do. Um, I'll share another failure that I had, so you can hopefully learn from that failure. It's a humbling story of how I tried to break into the renewable energy industry. So, about 10 years ago, maybe some of us tend to get sort of a mid-career crisis, and we think, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I playing to my strengths? Am I working in areas that I'm passionate about? And I fundamentally believe that renewable energy is one of the most important things that we can do, and climate change is one of the most pressing societal needs that we have. And what am I personally doing to help advance that state of the art and that technology? So I said, well, maybe I should get a job in the renewable energy industry. And I had no credentials there. So, what did I do? Well, I kind of went to my old playbook, which was, I better go get some formal training in this area, right? Get some qualifications. And so I took a master's course in renewable and sustainable energy, and went through all the coursework, and did fine, and got good grades. And then I graduated from that program, and I started to look for jobs. And I thought naively that the world kind of worked as a meritocracy, and everyone would know if you're capable and skilled in a certain area. Just like at school, it's a meritocracy, and if you do well, you get good grades, and you get your job. And it was a very humbling experience for me, because no one was answering my knocks on the door for a career shift into renewable energy. And when you think about it, obviously, why would they? Here's this person with a embedded systems engineering background. I didn't have any relevant experience. I took some coursework, but most importantly, I didn't have any network in that area. And I learned a really important lesson, which is that your degree, so what you all are doing right now at CU Boulder, and the degree that you get is going to get you your first job. But every job after that, you're going to get through your network. And it's all about who you know, not what you know. And I just didn't have that network in the industry built up. And so I had no one to vouch for me, no credibility there. And since then, I've taken a lot of actions and worked to build up my network. And a few things that I would encourage all of you to think about is, how are you building your network while you're going through this program at CU Boulder? And there's lots of great ways you can do this. There's societies at the school. There's things like IEEE. There's professional societies that I've personally joined and gotten a lot of satisfaction out of. There's just all kinds of things that you can find ways to plug in and meet people and build that network. Volunteering is a great one. I've served on the board of several volunteer organizations. My kids and I all play baseball, so I've been on the board of directors of North Boulder Little League, and met some amazing contacts there, including someone that ended up being the CTO at a solar company in Boulder, right? So there you go. Now I have a connection in the renewable energy industry, and if I were to look and try to make a career move, he'd be the first person that I talked to. And we made that connection through baseball, through volunteering and coaching baseball. So I'm showing you on the left there, LinkedIn is also obviously a great one. That's kind of the professional networking site that hopefully we're all on. I threw this out there to my network a couple weeks ago. I said, "Yeah, I got the honor of dressing this class," and wanted to get their input. What advice was the most impactful to you, or what advice did you not get that you wished you had? And started a great conversation. I got a lot of good comments from people in my network, and good ideas for building content for this presentation. So that's really the third message is build that network and do it now, before you think you need it, because once you need to rely on your network, it's far too late to start building it. So think about every day, what are you doing to build that network and build the right connections. I'd be happy to connect with all of you on LinkedIn after this presentation. So send me an invite, and I look forward to connecting with you there. All right. So just to wrap up and summarize, I think we're just at about the 30 minutes. So my quote unquote wise career advice, if I were to summarize, really breaks down into these three things. The intersection of the passions that you have, the strengths that you have as a unique individual, and then the network that you've built up. And if you can work hard to find the intersection of those three areas, I'm very confident you're going to end up with a rewarding and satisfying career, even though it may not be exactly what you think or what you planned out. Like mine, it may look more like a spaghetti trail than a nice linear step and progression in your career. But these are the three things that I hope you take away, and take this hopefully wise career advice as you all are going through your career development. And so with that, I wanted to again thank you all. Really appreciate the time to talk with you, and I'm happy to have some question and answer session. I think this will be hopefully the most interesting part if we can have a little dialogue. So welcome any questions at this point.
So let me just start us out by saying, hold on, let me see if I can. Tim, can I ask you to stop sharing? Oh, good, there we are, good. Let me just say, I thought that was a tremendous presentation, and I admire your way of simply presenting failures in a really honest and compelling story. A lot of people talk about failures, but when they get into it, they really don't want to show anything. And I feel like you gave us something to really think through, the pivot to renewable energy. That's fascinating. The other thing I want to thank you for is that point about passion. Often I meet students who don't feel like they have a passion, and they're searching around for some job to define that passion. And what I take from what you're saying is that's not really what it's about. You can have a passion for doing work, you can have a passion for travel, and you can take pride in your work. That's passion. So rather than saying, well, I'm lost because I have no passion to write the new American novel, realize that your passion may be something that you channel into other things. It's a brilliant point, and I'm going to reiterate it to many of my own students. So I could go on, but do people have questions? Let me turn it around to people, because I thought that was great. What are people thinking? Let's not be shy now. So they may be mulling things over, but I have a lot of questions. Would you go back to the moment where you stopped being an engineer and you turned to management? And would you talk to us a little bit about how you made that transition? And then why you stayed? Certainly at some point you said, well, now I'm a manager and I'm not doing the kind of basic engineering I signed up for back in 1994 or 95. Would you talk to us a little bit about that transition and what kept you in that world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a design engineer. I had this degree in embedded systems, and I wanted to put it to use, and I did. And I love doing that. I love, like I said, solving problems. But here's what I found: we would work really hard as a team, and we would develop this great product, and we would release it to the market, and then we would go off and start working on the next product. And so for me personally, it was a little, um, the sense of accomplishment and sense of satisfaction there was kind of short-lived,
Hmm.
and it was ultimately not super rewarding because I didn't feel like it was having a real lasting impact. And so when I decided to make the shift, it was because I said, hey, if I shift my focus to working and developing people more so than products, I could see kind of the long-term sustainability of that and the development that you get from people. And so that was one of the ones, is just, what's more rewarding to you personally. Some people, that they would love that world where it's product after product after product, and that scratches all the itches for them personally. For me, like I said, it was about focusing more on people. And the other thing is, I think we all get to a point where we realize that the impact that we can have as an individual is scoped to a certain amount, right? You can only do so much, and obviously all the work that we do in engineering is in teams. No one does anything individually anymore. And so what I found was that, hey, I can have a much bigger impact. I can solve more problems. I can um, help the world more if I leverage my talents to get results out of other people rather than just directly from myself. And so those two kind of realizations for me is what tipped the scales and said, okay, let's take the shift and go over to the management track, to the evil side, as they say. And but still, I've found it really important to keep the technical skills sharp. So keep the saw sharp, as they say. And so I try to find opportunities to do that and dive in technically, to keep the credibility and just to develop yourself personally. And man, there's so many opportunities out there. You all know because you're doing the online master's program, but there's things like Coursera, and there's the Khan Academy, and the what you can learn now for free in a lot of cases online is basically unlimited. So hey, AI and machine learning is a big topic in the industry right now. We have the opportunity, you can go take a course in artificial intelligence and machine learning from Andrew Yang, at Stanford, one of the foremost experts in it. And so I do that. I'll go and study and keep the saw sharp, so to speak. But hopefully that answers your question, gives you a little insight on the management track shift for me personally.
I have a number of questions. I want to make sure if anyone wants to jump in.
I
Antonio,
have a question. It's Antonio here. I have a question
Hello?
about your. Hello, can you hear? Okay. Yeah, I have a question about the challenge of managing people in China, in Japan, in Malaysia. How you integrate the American culture with Chinese, Malaysia. All of them are very different, right?
Yeah, that's a great question, Antonio. Thanks for that. So my role when I took these assignments internationally is kind of to be the ambassador of our corporate culture, because like you mentioned, there definitely is unique Chinese culture, and there's Malaysian culture, and there's Japanese culture, but then there's also our corporate culture, which kind of transcends all of that. And so that's one of the unique challenges is, yeah, how do you be an ambassador of the NI corporate culture as you go to all these different unique places? So just a couple of points that I'll make on that. Number one is, especially in Asia, you just can't underestimate the importance of making a personal connection with people. In the US, we tend to be very kind of transactional in how we do business. It's like, hey, we got this task, we need to get it done. We can work on it. It doesn't matter if I know you personally or I know your spouse and your kids, but in Asia, it tends to be very different. It's like, first, we need to get to know each other at a personal level and build up that relationship and build up that trust, which is the foundation before any transactional work can take place. So that's definitely one kind of key lesson learned, especially working with Asian cultures. That's very different in other places around the world. You know, Germany is going to have a very different culture in general than China or Malaysia or Japan. But that's one thing, is just the importance of building up the personal connection and the personal relationship there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. More questions? Thoughts? I see Bob Erickson's joined us. Bob, do you have a comment or a thought on this? I always call on you. Bob is very much a partner in crime in all things electrical engineering, whether it's with me or anyone else.
Well, I really was interested in the approach to just, you know, instead of listing positive advice, to go back and look at failures and learn from them. And that really resonated with me. And certainly you talk about trying the renewable energy field. And I feel personally, you know, I did a startup in the renewable energy field and it failed. And now I'm doing another. So I don't know if I learned my lesson or not. Maybe it's the lessons learned are at a lower level and don't do a startup in renewable energy.
You know, though, let me just say, let me Budinsky here and say one theme that I've seen over all these professional conversations is the importance of continuing, as Tim said, to keep the saw sharp and to learn about new fields and continue education. And both of you in the renewable energy interest are basically saying it's almost genetic in who you are, that you're going to go out and find some new thing that you're interested in, learn about it, and in fact, try and make a career move of some sort into it. It's really an interesting through line that Tim and Bob, you've been both in the same institution for many a year, and yet you don't see that as channeling you, keeping you stuck in a groove. You see it as a platform for learning all kinds of things.
Yeah, you got to get out and do new things. That's right. And learning about Coursera and MOOCs was another one that I personally relate to. So it's really interesting to see you go all around the world and wrestle pythons and things. I think that's
yeah, and one thing that you said, Bob, you know, resonated just in terms of the failure. And for me, it's about taking risk. And the pace that technology is moving today requires a certain amount of risk taking. And when you take a risk, you know, if you're going to succeed big, you've got to think big, you've got to take a big risk, and you're inevitably going to fail at some of those. If you're not failing, you're not striving far enough and taking a big enough risk. And so that's something that I've been trying to really reinforce with my team. And I think you see this, it's kind of pervading the industry a lot. You know, when I think about software development and I think about concepts like agile methodology and getting workable software out there in the hands of customers and letting them play with it and give feedback. And, you know, maybe it's the wrong feature and it's a failure, but you find out about it in 2 weeks and you put it in, you know, change into your next sprint, versus this methodology, you know, the more classic waterfall, like let's plan everything out. And we're going to know all the features and all the interfaces, and it's going to be beautifully designed, and it's going to take 3 years to architect it. And by that point, you know, the market has shifted and it's no longer even relevant. So I think that this is, you know, something that there's really something there with just the pace that the world is moving today, and the need to take bold steps in a certain direction and then course correct as you go. So that's something that I've definitely seen.
The road to success is long and twisted and
yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't, as a, you know, at my company, and I think at a lot of institutions of higher education, I don't think we reward and recognize that failure as much as we should. And so we become risk averse a lot of times, kind of by nature of the environments that we're working in.
I have another question. As you have international experience, how do you compare the students in the US with the students in Asia, for example? How they come into college or the university? How well prepared are they? Can you see a difference between countries?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question. And I've probably done, well, literally thousands of interviews over my 20-year career with students from all over the US, in China and Malaysia. One thing that I found is that the talent is consistent all across the world, right? The US certainly has no lock on smart people or brilliant ideas. I mean, you look at the distribution of things like Nobel Prizes around the world, and they're distributed all over the world. So no monopoly on smart people in any one place. Sort of the classic and the stereotypical approach of the Chinese education system. It's more of a Confucius system, which is, kind of master, teacher, and a bunch of disciples, and it's more one way and kind of rote learning in a lot of cases. And so you find students that are incredibly talented and skilled, and they've learned the concepts that they have been taught. But what is missing still in some of those systems is more of the creative problem solving, the teamwork, the just innovation that is more, I think, common in the US education system. I mentioned things like FIRST Robotics, right? If you've got a high school student that went through FIRST Robotics, like, wow, what an incredible background they have now, because they know how to solve problems creatively in a team. And that's something that you're never going to learn in any kind of classroom environment. But I've seen that the system in China evolve and move more towards that, because I think they recognize that, especially in a field like engineering, that creativity, that teamwork is as valuable as being able to take a differential equation or do your your third derivatives and stuff like that. So it's evolving for sure, and each country, it's fascinating to see their education system. My kids have had the opportunity to go to a Japanese school, and so I get firsthand experience of what the Japanese education system looks like compared to the US as well. But there's smart people all over the world, and I'll put in my plug here. I do think that one of the things that keeps the US in a kind of global world supremacy standing, which is kind of more and more tenuous each day, it seems like, is the prestige of our higher education institutions. The top talent in China and Malaysia and around the world continues to want to study and get an advanced degree in the US. And we bring a lot of talent into the US, and hopefully a lot of them stay, and they become the next founder of Tesla or the next founder of Google or whatever. So I think that is one of our competitive advantages still as a society, is the higher education system that we have in the US.
Yeah, thanks.
Boy, Tim, I could talk to you about that for hours more, because we're at such a point right now with the pandemic of thinking about what differentiates the United States higher education system, what challenges we implicitly bear in our educational mode that produces such wonderful students, and how we transmit that into the remote setting. And boy, it's a complicated and difficult moment for universities everywhere. I wonder if you would take a quick shot at that. What do you think? I mean, in your own role as director of academic programs or head of academic programs, what do you think it is that translates from campus to online effectively?
Wow, it's a great question. And yeah, I did have the opportunity to think about this a little bit in my previous role, and kind of proud because some of the products that we released, I think, were maybe ahead of their time and are now the time is coming, and the pandemic is forcing a lot of transitions to happen at a rate that we didn't anticipate. So things like project-based learning and flipped classrooms, for example. So some of the products we developed were very low cost, portable instrumentation devices for students. And so now, you're in a world where you don't need tens of thousands of dollars to set up an electronics lab and, go into a certain place to take your measurements. For $100, the data acquisition, the conversion technology, the computer interface, for $100, you can have this low cost instrumentation device that fits in your pocket. And now your lab is everywhere. And so that fundamentally changes the game. And you get to more of this project-based learning opportunity. You get to, the flipped classroom, right? Where students can watch the lecture online and then come in and do their collaboration together. So I think it's opening up a world of opportunities. I'm fascinated to see where higher education goes through this pandemic. I'm sure you and Bob are thinking a lot about this. It sure seems like there's going to be some winners and some losers. And personally, I absolutely still see the value in some portion of the campus experience, where you get some of that socialization, you get that networking, you get the experience of working together in a team. But maybe it's a hybrid model. Maybe you don't do 4 years on campus. Maybe you do 1 year as an introduction and you meet your cohort and you start a project together, and you do a couple of years online, and then maybe you come together and you share your capstone and your final year. So I don't know. I mean, it's anybody's guess. You guys are a lot more knowledgeable about this than me, but it sure seems like some kind of hybrid approach is going to be attractive to a lot of students moving forward.
So Tim, were you involved in Digilent?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Digilent is one of our subsidiaries at NI, and yeah, so the analog devices to we developed that product. 100 megasample per second front end oscilloscope, and I know you guys are using those across the CU engineering department, which is great.
We're going into them big time this year. We're kind of forced into it, actually, to run a lab that won't get interrupted in the middle of the semester. But it's perhaps necessity has forced it on us, but we're going at it full bore. And I'm actually now thinking I'm going to make a Coursera-based lab course using it.
That's great.
It does address one of the big problems of the cost of lab equipment, and we can build up a good lab on campus, but now to do it at a distance is a whole nother issue. So I think Digilent really addressed some of the big electrical engineering problems, and we're now moving that way. I don't know if the third world can afford it yet, but certainly the first world can.
Yeah, I mean, you're really talking about devices that are the cost of a textbook in a lot of cases.
And less than a credit hour of tuition.
Right. So, we're at a kind of waypoint in the semester, in the year, and I want to sum up a little bit. I see tremendous continuity in our professional conversations. The issues of how engineers move to management, how engineers move to management, the issues of continuing to keep the saw sharp and remain educated, always pushing yourself, and then the issues of networking are continual through lines through these discussions. And Tim, I just think you hit them so strongly. It was such a crystalline presentation. Thank you for that. I wonder if you have a sum up point that you want to underscore, because we've had you on the spot here for an hour, and goodness gracious, it's your family vacation. It's time to get in with those Lego sets and play with the kids in the other room and get it all together. So I wonder if you just wanted to pull together, if you had a final thought.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you, William, and everybody who attended. I appreciate you taking the time. You all are doing a great program, and I'm super proud always of my connection to the University of Colorado there. It's an engineering education that has served me well throughout my career, and I'm proud to be a buff. So Sco Buffs, I guess, would be the last thing that I leave you all with, and hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon.
Well, thank you so much. And next time I'm pedaling by Niwot High, I'll think of you there playing on the swing sets there. Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Let's have a round of applause. Have a great day. Have a great vacation. And we'll speak again. Onward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
My pleasure.